What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Saleh, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play with Josh Saleh. And this week, we're talking about Munchkin, one of my all-time favorite games. If you're into dungeon crawling in a sense, building your own character, a sense of RPG, but a basic level of RPG. This is a great introduction to Dungeons & Dragons. It's a great introduction to big fantasy games, even longer games like Gloomhaven. But in this, you're not working together. You're actually competing against one another. And it could get so crazy that you may lose friends during this game. So Munchkin came out in 2001, years ago, I know, long time, but it still holds up to this day. And if you really love the original Munchkin, they have Munchkins for all types of fans out there and nerds. Space Munchkin, Cthulhu Munchkin, Marvel Munchkin, which is one of my ultimate favorites that I have behind me, and I have all the expansions to that one. That's how much you know I am a huge fan of Marvel and Munchkin combined together as one, yeah. Now, Munchkins aren't very expensive at all. You can get them for pretty good prices, and they're pretty much on sale a lot of the times as well. Check it out to see how much they cost. The designer is Steve Jackson, and the publisher is Steve Jackson Games. They have made so many that you could check on their website at munchkin.sjgames.com. Munchkin takes about 3 to 6 players. I recommend more players the better, so 6 players would be perfect. 3 players, you kind of have this weird triangle dynamic where someone's cursing the other person and the other person's cursing them, and it's just this nonstop circle. 4 to 5, 4, pretty good. 5 to 6, sweet spot. If you can get 5 to 6 players to play Munchkin, not only is it gonna be a long Munchkin game, which is my personal favorite because anything can happen, but it's also gonna be the most chaotic Munchkin game. So anything goes, no hold barred, it's wild. And sometimes when people win this game, they win in the most anticlimactic way possible, or sometimes the most climactic way possible, where other people are just so upset on how you won, but you yourself are, I still won, still counts. If you're debating, well, should I get this game if I only have 3 players? Yeah, give it a shot. It wouldn't hurt. It's still fun to play, but if you can really get that 4, 5, and 6, that sweet spot right there, you're in for a good night. The game takes about 1 to 2 hours. It could take longer. I've never seen a Munchkin game take less than an hour. They can never go that fast, depending on how many players you play. The more players, the more time. But 2 hours seems to be that average time. Again, I've seen games go for 3 hours, but that's like 6 players doing everything in their power to stop everyone from winning constantly. And those games do get tiring after a while, and you're just like, okay, this needs to end at some point. Someone just give up already. But don't ever give up. Never give up, never surrender. I would give this game about a 3 out of 5 on the difficulty because there's a lot of rules. You're gonna go to the manual a lot during the time. It's gonna be a lot of reading of the cards because each card changes the rules a little bit and changes your style of play. You're gonna even wanna go to BoardGameGeek.com to the forums because they might have specific scenarios that maybe you got yourself into that you're like, how does this even work, that the manual might not talk about. So there could be a lot of researching in this game, which kind of pushes that difficulty to a 3 out of 5. But once you kind of get the hang of it, 2 out of 5, 2.5, 2 out of 5, I would say, once you start getting the real hang of it. But there are still gonna be moments, even if you play this game for years, where you're still gonna be like, wait a second, how does this happen? What do I do? What does it mean if this happens? Munchkin is a completely card-based game. As you open it, you'll have 2 decks. One, the treasure deck, which you'll see the gold on top. It's a little darker brown. And the kicking the door, or the door deck, which will have a door on it, and the lighter brown. Both will have Munchkin, the title on it. You'll also have a die inside because you will be rolling the dice at some points in the game. Now, one thing the game doesn't come with are level markers. I use poker chips because it's easier for me to see it visually. A lot of people use apps, counters, level counters for apps. They have their own on their website. Take both of your decks, the treasure deck and the door deck. You want to shuffle them, put them in the middle of the table. Then you're going to hand out 4 door cards and 4 treasure cards to each player. So each player should have 4 treasure cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 door cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, to each player. So everyone should have 8 cards in their hand. 4 treasures, 4 doors. Everyone should have their 10 markers in front of them for their levels. Level 1, you want to have 1 marker for level 1 to show that everyone starts at level 1, or on your phone or app, whatever you're using. So everybody on the table has a level 1 marker in front of them, 8 cards in their hand, and you are also a human with no class. From there, you decide what sex do you want to be. Do you want to be a male or a female? Because certain cards in this game will tell you certain bonuses depending on the sex you choose. In order to decide who goes first, you roll the dice it came with, and whoever rolls the highest or lowest, however you want to decide, goes first. Then from there, you go clockwise around the board. So let's talk about how to play Munchkin. This is going to be a lot of rules and a lot of information thrown at you because it's a very heavy worded game. Even after you watch this video, you're still gonna go to the manual and you're still gonna look up on forums, and that's totally okay. Don't think, oh man, I should know how to play this entire game just based off this video, because you might get into a scenario that is completely different or something that I never even thought of that you need to look online or look on the manual. So for this how-to, I'm going to break it down in different segments because there's a lot of rules to go through. In order to win the game, you need to reach level 10. You start at level 1 and you must get to level 10. So let's talk about the different ways you can level up. You can level up by defeating a monster. You can also level up by selling 1,000 gold to level up. Every 1,000 gold you sell is a level. So when you check out your items, look at the gold on the bottom of the card. That will let you know how much the item is worth. If you sell 1,000 of that, or even 2,000 of that, you go up 2 levels. Now, if you sell 1,500, you do not get change back, and you just lose the 500 gold of those items. And the third way are go up a level cards. Now, the only ways you can go from level 9 to level 10 are defeating a monster. You cannot pay to level up to level 10, and you cannot go up a level, use a go up a level card to go from 9 to 10. As you start at level 1, you cannot go below level 1. Throughout the game, you might have cards that say go down a level. If you lose to a monster, it might tell you, hey, to go down a level. You cannot go past level 1. You can't go to level 0. When I talk about your hand, I talk about the cards in your actual hand, not the cards on the table or in play. Now, when I talk about in play, I mean all the cards that are in front of you face up. So not the cards in your hand. So they are cards in your hand, and cards in play, which are in front of you. Cards in play that are on the table can never be put back into your hand. So at the start of your turn, you have 8 cards in your hand. By the end of your turn, you have to make it to 5. You cannot have more than 5 cards in your hand. So with those 8 cards, you have to kind of decide how you're going to play with them. So let's talk about actions. There are actions you can do on your turn, there are actions you can do anytime, and there's actions you can only do outside of combat. So let's start with actions you can do at any time. At any time, you can discard a race or a class card, play a go up a level card or a hireling card, or play a curse at any time. So those are the actions you can do at any time, even if it's not your turn. So here are some actions you can do at any time, even if it's not your turn, as long as you're not in combat. You can trade with another player. That player must also not be in combat. You can change an item you have equipped, and you can play a card you have just received. So here's some actions you can do on your turn. You can play a race or a class card even if you're in combat. You can sell items to level up, but you cannot be in combat. Or you can play an item as long as you're not in combat, but you can play a one-shot item if you're in combat. So no, that was a lot of actions right then and there, and they're not gonna really make sense until we get into the cards. So I'm just kind of giving you a foundation to start with, so then we start seeing cards and what they mean, you go, oh, okay, I can play this at this time, or I cannot play this at this time. Now I'm gonna go into detail on the cards that you might find in this game. We're gonna start with the door pile first. Monster cards will have the level of the monster above it, level 4, the name of the monster, I have harpies in my hand, what the monster does, they resist magic, +5 against wizards, and the bad stuff if you cannot defeat the monster. Bad stuff for harpies are their music is really, really bad, lose 2 levels, and on the bottom right of the card, you'll see how many treasures you get if you can defeat the monster. Next, we're gonna talk about race and class cards. Race and class cards, throughout the game, you can put down race and class cards. Remember, certain cards can only be used on your turn. Race and class cards can only be used on your turn. So a race would be a dwarf. You can carry any number of big items, and you can have 6 cards in your hand. So that is a race. Now a class card is a cleric. You have the option of resurrection. When it is time for you to draw cards face up, you may instead take some or all from the top of the appropriate discard pile. Meaning, if I can choose 2 treasures after defeating a monster, I can choose to take 2 treasures from the top of the discard pile instead, which could be incredibly beneficial. You must then discard 1 card from your hand every card I draw from the discard pile. So if I draw 1 treasure from the discard pile, I have to discard 1 card from my hand. Remember, hand versus in play. Now, turning, you may discard up to 3 cards in combat against an undead creature. Each discard gives you +3 bonus. So if I have a chance to discard 3 cards against an undead, that gives me +9 to an undead creature. So that is a cleric class. So if my first 4 cards were dwarf and cleric, on my turn I could be a dwarf cleric. That is my race and that is my class. Now throughout the game I might want to change that depending on what I draw and what kind of bonuses I enjoy having, but those would be my race and class. Now keep in mind everyone starts off as a level 1 human with no class. So you want to equip race and class cards as fast as you get them on your turn. Now let's talk about the Super Munchkin card. Without the Super Munchkin card, you can only be one class. Now, the Super Munchkin card says that you have the advantages of both, but also the disadvantages of both cards as well. So if monsters hate clerics, I would have to keep the disadvantage of that. Now, if I get a Super Munchkin card, I can play it on my turn, and I can play another class card, Wizard, so I am a Wizard Cleric. I am both of those. Now, I could also decide to use my Super Munchkin card on one class. That means I have all the advantages of that one class and none of the disadvantages. So if I'm fighting a monster as a cleric and it says +5 against clerics, and I have a Super Munchkin card on my cleric, it's not +5 against clerics because this negates the disadvantage of that. Super Munchkin cards are fantastic to have. I like to play where I have multiple classes because even though I get the disadvantages and advantages of both, it opens up my net of possibly winning. It's easier that way. Now, if I lose all my class cards, I have to also lose my Super Munchkin card. Just like Super Munchkin were for classes that you can have multiple, Half-Breed is for races, so you can have multiple races as well. So if I put this under one of my races, I can either have all the advantages of one race or the disadvantages and advantages of 2 races. Curses come in hand so much. You want to stop people from leveling up as much as possible because you want to level up to 10 before them. Curses are going to help you do that. This curse says lose a small item. So at any time in the game, it doesn't have to be your turn, you can curse anybody. So if you have this in your hand, you might want to keep your curses for a certain amount of time when it's really good to use them. So you can curse someone on a table whenever you want. I curse you. Now they can curse you back, someone else can curse you because curses can go down at any time. Now this curse says lose a small item. Choose one small item to discard. Any item that is not designated as big is small. Now when it says discard a small item, it could be from your hand or in play. With the Wandering Monster card, I can play this card with another monster in my hand and give it to someone while they're in combat, so it's harder for them to defeat the monsters. There's 2 monsters they have to fight. Or I can play this on myself as well, because let's say I have a low-level monster and I have my Wandering Monster card and I need to level up from 9 to 10. Well, what a great way to defeat a monster easily, because playing a low-level monster with my Wandering Monster card, I can now level up from 9 to 10, and it's hard for people to stop me. This one is Ancient, +10 to monster. You play this during a combat. If the monster is defeated, they draw 2 extra treasures, so you can either add 10 to somebody else's combat for their monster to make it harder for them to defeat that monster, or you can add it +10 to your monster if you know you're easily going to defeat it, so you get even more treasure. Mate, it duplicates the monster and it gives you more treasure and more levels because now you're fighting 2 monsters, so you get treasures for both and levels for both. So sometimes it's good to duplicate a monster you're fighting yourself so you can level up faster, or duplicate a monster that someone else is fighting so it makes it harder for them to defeat that monster. And one of my favorite cards, Divine Intervention. You must play this card as soon as you pick it up. All clerics immediately go up a level, and this could be the winning level. If someone is a cleric and this card is drawn and they're a level 9 cleric, they now win the game and the game is over. It's an amazing way to win. I love it. So now we're gonna talk about cards in the treasure pile. These cards are a lot crazier and a lot more fun. So you can equip items on your body and they give you more bonuses when you fight monsters. One of them being armor. You can equip 1 armor at a time. You can't have multiple armors on. This one is +1 bonus called Slimy Armor. You put that in front of you when you want to play it on your turn, so you have that equipped. You can have 1 headgear, +1 bonus, +3 for elves, this one says, called a Horny Helmet. So you can have 2 hand items or 1 2-hand items. So 1 in each hand, if you will. One is a Sneaky Bastard Sword, +2 bonus. And this one is +3 bonus, but usable by a cleric only, Cheese Grater of Peace. And I can also do a foot gear. This is +2 bonus, Boots of Butt Kicking, and that is equipped as well. This is what a full equipped arsenal would look like. You have 1 headgear, 1 item in each hand, 1 armor, and 1 footgear. Go up a level, it'll say simply go up a level. You get to immediately discard that card and go up a level. They are amazing cards, you'll have to see them. Magic Missile is one, worth 300 gold pieces. Play during any combat, +5 to either side. So you can help yourself if you're fighting a monster, or make it harder for someone else to defeat a monster. The Wishing Ring cancels any curse, play at any time, usable only once. So if someone curses me, I can play the wishing ring and it cancels that curse. Called Limburger and Anchovy Sandwich, worth 400 gold pieces, +3 bonus, usable by halflings only. So if I'm a halfling, I could equip this in front of me and I have now +3 bonus. Let's talk about the Magic Lamp. You may use the lamp only on your turn. It summons a genie who makes a single monster vanish, even if you had already failed your runaway roll and it was about to catch you. If it was the only monster you were facing, you may take its treasure, but you do not gain the level. So if you have a magic lamp, you can use it against a monster, the monster goes away, you still gain the treasure, but you don't gain the level because you did not defeat that monster. So by the end of your turn, you have to only have 5 or less cards in your hand. So when you have a ton of item cards, you can also choose to carry them in your backpack. Any item that has a gold value on the bottom right can be carried. Now keep in mind, you can only have 1 big item in front of you at a time unless a card states otherwise. So if I have a big armor, I can't also have another big item in my backpack that I'm carrying. That's too many big items. So what I can do with my items, let's say I'm trying to save my gold until I get to 1,000, I can just put them right in front of me. You want to make them go sideways, showing them that they are not equipped, but they are next to you in your backpack. And as they're sideways, you can put them right next to you, as many as you want. You can put as many as you want. This is what it might look in front of my play area. On the left, I have the items that I've equipped. As you can see, a headgear, an armor, and a footgear. They give me those bonuses. And on the right, my backpack. Now keep in mind, you can't switch out the items in your backpack to the ones that are equipped on combat. So in combat, you cannot be like, I like this armor better than this one, I'm gonna change that. You cannot do that. If you ever wanna switch out an item, let's say you get a better armor later on in the game, you can never just discard an item card to replace it. You either have to sell it up to 1,000, you can't sell less than 1,000 to go up a level, trade it to somebody, or give it to the lowest level player. Those are your only options that you can do. You can't just discard an item just because you're like, okay, I don't want this armor anymore. I'm gonna choose to discard it. Now that we described what certain cards do, let's talk about gameplay and a turn and what that looks like. So the start of your turn, you'll have 4 cards in your hand, 4 door cards and 4 treasure cards. At this moment, you wanna decide what you wanna equip in your turn. If you have any race or class cards, great time to put those down now on your turn. From there, you'll decide if you wanna equip any items. Maybe you have some armor, maybe you have some hands, maybe you have a go up a level card, you can play that immediately right now. Again, you can play that not on your turn as well, so if you have go up a level card, you can play that at any time. Your turn starts. At the beginning of your turn, you have to draw 1 card from the door pile. You are kicking down the door. You're opening the door. What is inside? As you open it up, you read the card out loud so everyone knows what it is. I just picked up Illusion. This immediately goes in my hand because it was not a monster. If I drew a monster, my first card is a monster, I have to immediately fight it. I am now in combat. So you kick down the door, the first card. If it's a monster, you're in combat. If it's not a monster, it goes into your hand. Now let's say it's not a monster. You now have a second turn. The first card you choose is not a monster. Now you can decide if you want to play a monster from your hand to fight. Great time to be playing a low-level monster to level up quickly, especially if you're level 9, you'll win. Or you can just choose to draw another card from the door pile and keep it hidden so nobody knows and it goes into your deck. Now let's say it is a monster. Combat starts. Love it. All right, so the first card you draw in the door pile is a monster. You take your levels and all your bonuses in front of you that are equipped and you add them up, whatever that might be. So I have a level of 9 and bonuses of 11, so I'm at an attack of 20. That attack of 20 faces off against the monster. The monster is a level 1 that I'm fighting right now. I would easily win. Now if I tie, I would lose. Tie goes to monster. And if I'm less than, monster wins, and the bad stuff happens. If I win, I level up, and I get however many treasures that are in there. Now other players might want to stop me from winning, especially if I'm trying to get from level 8 to 9 or 9 to 10, because that's the last thing they want, because then they'll lose. So this monster could increase. People can put curses on me. People can add levels up to this monster. you can just keep playing it and overloading that monster as much as they want. And then if I lose, the bad stuff happens basically. And so it's not my turn anymore, and someone else goes, and then it's their turn. If I'm fighting a monster and I am not going to win, I can ask for help. Please, somebody help me, please. Only one person can help me, and it's up to them if they want to decide. If they decide to help me, we total both of our bonuses up together, and we fight that monster. I would level up if we win, but if they have a card that says otherwise, they could also level up. But they do not level up unless a card says otherwise. They might want some of the treasure they want to get. They might kind of bribe. You kind of negotiate what you want to get from that. They can say, I want to look at both treasures and decide on my own. I want it to be completely random. I want for you to decide. It could be anything you want, any rule set you want. That's the fun of it. You get the treasure and you move on to the next person. Now, if nobody wants to help me and I can't defeat the monster, then what happens is I can choose to run away. I take my die and I roll. If I roll a 5 or a higher, I can run away. Some classes and races might help you with that. They might lower that running away die to maybe a 3 or a 4. If I can't run away, then the bad stuff happens to me, for that monster says. But if I do run away, monster gets discarded, I don't get the loot, I don't level up, and it's not my turn anymore. Let's say you're in combat and somebody duplicates that monster or adds another monster with a wandering monster card. You take those two monsters and combine their strength. Now you can't choose to fight one and run away from the other. You either have to choose to fight both or run away from both. If you run away, you don't get the level or the treasure. But if you defeat both, you get whatever the levels are and the treasure. If you can't run away and you get defeated, you get the bad stuff from both. At the end of the turn, you can't have more than 5 cards in your hand. You cannot just discard a card to discard a card. You can't say, oh, I have 6 cards, I have to discard a card in the discard pile. You cannot do that. If you cannot sell up to 1,000 gold for a level, if you cannot put items in your backpack to lessen your hand down to 5, and if you cannot trade with somebody, then you have to give the cards to the lowest level player. So if I have 7 cards, I'm like, okay, I have to give 2 away. I have to choose 2 cards to give to the lowest level player. That player is going to help them, those cards are going to help them, be better, level up faster, etc. Now let's talk about death. Some monsters may kill you. When that happens, you keep your level, you keep your race and your class cards. Everything else you lose. You take your hand, you put it on the table in front of you, all your play cards are in front of you. Everybody starts going from the highest player to the lowest level player. Get to choose 1 card from my hand and from my items. They can take 1. Now if people are tied, they roll to see who goes first, and they go from there. Once everyone chooses 1 card, all my cards get discarded except for my race and my class cards. It goes back, and now I have to wait till my turn comes back around. I choose 4 door cards and 4 treasure cards, and I continue. It's like the beginning of the game. All right, so we're gonna play a turn just to show you what it looks like. I've just started my turn. I have 4 of my door cards, 4 of my treasure cards. I am level 1, as the marker states. Those are the 2 draw piles right there. I'm gonna look at my hand to see what I have and what I can play in the beginning, which might really help me moving forward. All right, so I have a race card, that is an elf. I'm definitely gonna go ahead and put that on right now, so I'm currently an elf. I have enraged +5 to the monster. That's not gonna really help me right now. Save that for later. Level 8 ghoul friends. Level 4 harpies. I can't play any monsters on myself until I draw the first door card, and it's not a monster. I have a sleep potion worth 100 gold. This play during any combat, +2 to either side. I have a wishing ring, cancels any curse, play at any time. And a helm of courage, +1 bonus. So I'm gonna equip my helm of courage. So I have a +1 bonus right there for my helm of courage. The elf gives me +1 to run away, so I can roll a 4, 5, or 6. And you go up a level for every monster you help someone else kill. I also have Horde, which is incredible. So this allows me to draw 3 more treasure cards immediately. Draw 3 treasure cards. I have +4 bonus, usable by elves only, which is a bow with ribbons. And that is incredible because it's 2 hands and I'm already an elf. So I'm gonna equip that as well. So now I have a headgear and 2 hands as an elf. I have a cloak only usable by a thief, Cloak of Obscurity, +4 bonus. So I'm gonna put that in my backpack for now. Maybe I'll become a thief later on. And a +1 bonus, a hireling, allows you to carry and use 1 extra item, even if you could not otherwise. If you lose your hireling, the item goes away. That's really great. Allows you to carry or use one extra item even if you could not otherwise. I'm gonna keep this. I could essentially use this with the Cloak of Obscurity if I really wanted to, but I feel like I can get a thief later on. So I'm not gonna use that yet. I'm gonna use this for something that's a really big bonus that might be really hard to obtain, and later on in the game that might help me. So I'm gonna keep that in my hand. So now, the first beginning of my turn, I'm gonna kick open the door. I did not get a monster, so I'm not in combat. I got Wandering Monster, which allows me to throw a monster on somebody else as long as I have it in my hand. So at some point, I could take my level 8 ghoul friends and the Wandering Monster and give it to somebody else as long as they're in combat. So that's now in my hand. I can now choose to open a door card again and keep it in my hand, or fight a monster in my hand. I have a level 8 ghoul friends, which I do not want to fight because items do not work, level only. I'm only level 1, I would lose. Or level 4 harpies. This is great. It resists magic, I'm not fighting with magic, and it's +5 against wizard. I'm not a wizard. So I'm gonna put this on the table. I'm fighting a level 4 harpies, I'll tell the table that. I am a level 1, fighting with a Helm of Courage, which is a bonus of +1. Fighting with +4 bonus, elf only, so 4, 5, 6, 6 versus 4. Anybody can curse me right now, anybody could have this monster be worse. I go, no one's gonna hurt me. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I defeat it, I go up 1 level, booyah, and I get 2 treasures. One says +3 bonus, I will equip that, really impressive title. And another one is not usable by a thief. It is a singing sword, but it doesn't need any hands, as you can see, which is great. So I'll equip that as well. And my bonus has increased. My turn is over, and now it is the next person's turn. And you continue going. I have to make sure that I have 5 or less cards in my hand. I have 6 cards in my hand. So I can either choose to equip these in my backpack because they're worth gold. I can trade with somebody else, or I can give I can give 1 card to someone who is the lowest level player. I don't want to give anybody cards right now, so I'm going to put my sleeping potion in my backpack, because I'm not too worried if people know that. And this is what my end turn would look like. And now it is somebody else's turn. Now let's say I am level 9, and I need 1 monster to win. I pull up a level 4 harpies. I have clearly enough to defeat this level 4 harpies. I have 9, +1 is 10, 14, 17, 19. It's 19 versus 4. Everybody right now wants to stop me from winning. So they're gonna start adding bonuses to the monster. +5 in rage. Someone might do a wandering monster and add another monster. So now, instead of just fighting a level 4 harpies, which you see right here, I'm now fighting a level 9 harpies, because I added a +5 to that. As well as a level 8 ghoul friends, because someone added a wandering monster card. So you add these all up, all the negative and disadvantages come with it. So now I'm fighting all of these. Now more people would probably want to keep piling stuff on because this is still kind of easy for me to defeat. Now everyone starts arguing, starts putting cards on, it's a whole crazy thing, and that's when it begins the craziness. If I win, I level up, I win the game. If I lose, I can choose to run away, but if I don't run away and I lose, I have to do the bad stuff of both monsters. Let's talk about the review for Munchkin. This is an incredible game, but you need to have friends that are kind of down for a little bit of a wordy deck building game. You will be reading a lot of the cards, and it could get convoluted with calculations on how much the monster has versus how much you have and who wins that. Also, you could lose some friends in this game. I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but it's potentially possible. People can get very emotional in games, especially when you're competing against each other, and when you're constantly cursing people and making it harder for them to win, you could see repercussions outside of gaming. Now, I would say Munchkin's a solid 7 to an 8 out of 10, depending on who you're playing with. For sure a 7 at least. 8, you really gotta be playing with some people who are okay to get cursed. They're not gonna be really emotional about it. They're gonna laugh it off. But maybe you're the opposite of that and you want people to get really reactionary and you wanna see people cry and fit and anger and yell. to being cursed 5 times. And maybe that's fun for you, maybe that makes it higher. The more players you have, the better it's gonna be. So if you have 6 players, it's more of an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
If you have 3 players, I'd say it's probably even closer to 5 or 6 out of 10, because 3 players isn't the best. Original Munchkin is great for those who love fantasy, and that's another reason why if you have friends who love Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or that Harry Potter or that mentality of fantastical adventure, they're gonna have a great time with this, because you're gonna be like, I'm a dwarf who's a wizard and a cleric. I'm gonna change my voice. I'm gonna get really into it. That's also super fun to do. And if you don't like OG Munchkin, there's so many other ones out there. Zombie, Cthulhu, you name it, and there's definitely probably one that is up your pop culture level that you would love. So check them out, there's tons more out there. One way that this game could get even more convoluted is just that there's so many cards in front of you, there's so many cards in your hand. Other players have cards, so you have to kind of keep track of what they have as well. And so for players that really don't really enjoy, oh, I need to know what you have, I need to know what they have. If I curse you, is it gonna be declined? There's a lot of rules on rules on rules. Also, it could get pretty tiresome if you're constantly going to the manual, constantly going to board game forums, finding out if a specific scenario that you just had is the correct way to do it. So that's where it kind of gets bogged down in its own rules and its own design. The artwork is super fun. I love what I see with the design and the artwork. They have a lot of fun with it. A lot of inside jokes too, if you're a big fantasy board gamer, or if you're a fantasy movie watcher or a book reader, you'll see a lot of that in here. And the other Munchkin iterations you'll play, you'll see puns and other jokes that are connected to space or zombies or Cthulhu, and so on and so forth. There's a Conan version as well. So I really like the art and I really like the writing. The writing's a lot of fun. The flavor text is really funny. I do wish they did give you markers to check your level, but again, this is an older game that I bought. I'm not sure if the new ones do, and now it being 2022, you kind of can do it on your phone anyway, so that's easy in itself. All in all, if you're looking for a fun night for a super competitive, not cooperative at all, fun RPG, basic leveling up, creating your own class and hero, being a dwarf, a cleric, you name it, and experiencing the flavor text of this, you're gonna have a great time. Now, this game, replayability level, I played it a ton in middle school and high school and college. I just won every week. And then you kind of go like, okay, I know the cards. I'm kind of tired of this deck. Kind of like Cards Against Humanity, where you're like, okay, I kind of know every iteration, but everything changes depending on the players you play with. So that's where once you get tired of this Munchkin, you move on to another expansion. You move on to another world, and you can put them together and combine Munchkin sets, which is even more incredible. And different Munchkins offer different rule sets. Some of my fondest memories of playing Munchkin is when someone's about to go from level 9 to level 10 and the entire table goes against them. But that's where you have to also think that if that person is about to win and everyone uses their curses on that one person and the player after them is about to win, 9 to 10, then nobody has any curses left. So you kind of have to think about saving your curses, saving your cards, seeing who on the table is going to stop one person from winning. It's a little bit of a strategy with everybody in play too, because nobody wants the other person to win. So you're all kind of working together in stopping everyone from winning. So that's where the game could elongate to 3 hours, maybe a little bit less depending on how you're playing. And one of the best memories I've had of Munchkin is being a cleric and someone pulling up Divine Intervention and making me level up 9 to 10 and winning the game, which was insane. Those memories are never gonna be forgotten because it's such a crazy scenario to have. But Munchkin's a great way to dip your toe into fantasy games, RPG-esque games, learning about leveling up, learning about fantasy games, learning about classes and races, learning about equipping different arms and armor and foot gear. If I have a game like Gloomhaven, and maybe someone in my friend group is not ready for that, I'll probably start them with Munchkin. So yeah, that's Munchkin. Check it out. Also, check out their expansions, because if the original didn't really entice you, I guarantee you one expansion will. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, follow, add a comment below what you want the next board game video to be. Maybe I'll do it. And any feedback that you might have, I'm always learning for more. Thank you so much. Have a good one.